cent. My name is Paul Emerson, and I'll be giving you my 2 cents. This video probably won't be that long, but I wanted to discuss religion versus science. I was watching a video on. I woke up this morning to a video of a creationist asking questions about how did the brain evolve? How would humans be able to do this if the eyes evolved? Um, how would we have thoughts? How would we like if you believe in evolution? How are these things possible with evolution? And what's interesting is that I had a conversation yesterday um, on my Facebook page. Um, it was it was this. I don't know how easy it's gonna be for you guys to see this. Um, I'm recording. I'm streaming to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. But it's basically saying that there was an experiment where a woman was artificially inseminated by a chimpanzee, but there was no fertile offspring. And the conversation that I had was I said that experiment, the lack of, I said plainly that experiment is proof that humans didn't evolve from primates. Let me see if I can find this video since this is how it started. I don't like what the scientist said in response, which is the reason why I started recording.
Believe in evolution? Yeah. I've got a question for you. The eye to work with all parts, it has to be complete. How did man see before the eye evolved?
Using the other senses, like evolution debunked in 1 minute.
Believe in evolution?
Yeah, I do believe in evolution.
I've got a question for you. The eye to work with all parts, it has to be complete. How did man see before the eye evolved?
Using the other senses, I assume.
So just feeling and touching? And how did he find his first mate to reproduce? Because she's going to be blind too, because her eyes aren't involved. So both of them are blind, stumbling around. How do they find each other and then have offspring?
I'm not sure I can answer that one.
Do you know what your epiglottis is?
No, I do not.
It's your Adam's apple. It's in your throat. It's an apparatus that stops the food going down the lungs. You'd be dead without it. You'd choke to death. How did man eat food before his epiglottis evolved?
I have no clue. I can't think of anything else.
Speaking of thinking, how did man think before his brain evolved? How did he walk around and look for food and look for a woman and live before his brain evolved? Because it's not going to work if it's not evolved. So how did that happen?
I would assume, like in time, it takes long periods of time to do, I guess, like accomplish one thing. I guess by moving.
How long did he have to wait for his brain to evolve? Are we talking millions of years?
Who knows?
Ask these questions of your evolutionary teacher next time he tells you this and see what he says. He'll have no answer for them.
That's true.
Because evolutionist believers have a certain language. They say maybe, perhaps, probably, could have. There's no facts.
I don't know who this guy is. I don't know anything about his channel. I just find it interesting that 2 comments about evolution popped up. So let me skip the ad.
Well, hi there. That was a lot of questions. A whole gish gallop of them. But I have good news. I am a teacher of evolutionary biology and an evolutionary biologist, so let's answer them. That's what he wanted, right? They move pretty fast, so I'll try to get to all of them. Okay, so the first question was, do you believe in evolution? And belief is a word that can mean a lot of things. To be precise, I try to avoid the word believe when I talk about science in general. The truth is that I believe that all science is wrong. Science is a model of reality, not reality itself, and not the truth. The great thing about models is that they can often help us better understand the natural world. Science, at its best, is a highly predictive model of reality. But the problem with models is that they are all wrong. All of them. So I believe...
So then this is kind of the reason why I wanted to. This is kind of the reason why I wanted to make this video, because science is not a belief. Is accepting something is true even if you don't know if it's true. This is a box of Nutter Butters, right? You can't engage in this box with your senses. I'm going to tell you that this box is full, or I can tell you that this box is empty. You have to believe that the box is full or the box is empty. But there are spectrums inside of our reality where actually understanding and knowing something is valid. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, based on all of the axioms, postulates, and theorems that have been given to me as a child, that this is a full box of Nutter Butters, right? I know it's a full box. I don't have to believe that it's a full box. I don't have to theorize that it's a full box. I don't have to create models to determine the probability of it being a full box. I know as an individual experiencing this box directly that it was a full box of Nutter Bar. Now it's an empty box, right? Is it an empty box of Nutter Bar? Well, now we're getting into semantics, because does it need these in it for it to be the type of box that it is defined as? If I fill this box up with something different, does it become that other thing? That is subjective. Religion likes to entertain the nuances of the confusion of the capacity by which ignorant people don't understand. It's perfectly okay, it's perfectly acceptable, and it's perfectly valid to not understand something. Being ignorant is not evil. It's not a sin. You're not going to go to fucking hell because you're ignorant. It simply just means that you don't have sufficient understanding. You lack sufficient understanding, and you lack sufficient understanding, and you lack sufficient experience. When you have experience and understanding, when you have knowledge and experience, you have wisdom, right? So a wise person can look at a box like this before I open it and see that it is sealed, and pick up the box and feel the weight of it, and they can infer that under normal conditions, this is a full box of Nutter Butters. That is scientific. I can have faith that there's another box of these in my cabinet. There's not another box of Nutter Butters in my cabinet, but I can have faith there's another box in there. I could believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's another box of Nutter Butters in my closet. Hello. But it won't change the fact that it's not there. This is the difference in the nuance between science and religion. I think that in 2025, we give religious scholars too much grace. We give people of faith too much privilege, right? You don't get to believe that God loves you and then don't stop at red lights because you're confident that you're going to be able to get to where you're going safely. You're infringing on everyone else's ability to be a functional adult by doing what you want based on your beliefs. There are certain conditions in the world that have to be acceptable and true, right? And science tries to make predictions about reality so that you can make more informed decisions and have better outcomes of your choices. Religion just wants to feel better about the insecurity of existing in a universe that doesn't fucking care about you. The very foundational function of religion is twofold. It is to give you answers to hard questions when you're too young to understand and reconcile the vastness of the universe, and to exploit you and to put you into a perpetual system of governance within human culture. Because human society is not natural. There's no natural order. There's nothing natural about civilization. It's not a natural thing, right? But we treat all of these rules, these laws, these ordinances, these regulations, these systems of classism, and these paradoxical catch-22 constructs of the human condition. We treat them as if they are as valid as gravity, and they're not. They're fucking not. If I tell you that I'm standing right now, I'm not standing, I'm sitting, right? So the capacity for us to be able to understand and reason and recognize and quantify the world doesn't change the fucking world. It's just our capacity to see the world. If you want to change the world, you have to put the work into to put change in the world. These nutty butters that are on the floor are in a chaotic ground state. They have maximum entropy. I, as a cognitive being, can take these nutty butters and I can violate natural order and put them back into this box in a very highly ordered way that raises their ground state above equal their in the highest state of entropy. And now they are ordered. They have the same energy that they had when they were on the ground in a chaotic ordered position. And that's where science and modern society fails us. Because a disordered system and an ordered system has the same amount of energy. It just requires more energy to create an ordered system than it does to create a disordered system. It's the same amount of energy. Like the nutty butters have the same energy here as they do here. They have the same amount of energy. Their ground state in relation to gravity has changed, but their energy state has not. When I raise them above the ground state of the ground, they have the same amount of energy. The energy of them hasn't changed. Because as soon as anything that is kinetic has positive energy. Anything that is static has ground state energy. And anything moving toward the ground state has negative potential. And the reason why I say it that way is because if you put something on a table, right? If you have something at this level, it has a high static ground state. And at this level, the ground state is lower to this. But to get from here to here requires energy. And the exchange of that energy will always be equal. It's always going to balance itself out. So this is at a lower ground state, which requires more energy in opposition to gravity to get to here. But any two locations in space outside of a gravitational field would require the same amount of energy to go from one to the other. It would also require the same amount of negative energy to bring the object moving from one location to rest at the other location. Because everything in our universe comes to rest because of gravity. Well, I'm sorry, everything on the Earth comes to rest because of gravity. If there was no gravity, this box would deflect off my hand and continue to move on indefinitely until it hits enough objects and exchanges enough energy with those other objects to come to rest. But under the gravitational force, to accelerate this requires us to move it above the ground state of gravitation, right? These are a lot of fancy words. When you have a limited understanding of the scientific domain, and you don't have accurate postulates and axioms and theorems to understand what's being said, these are a lot of words that I'm speaking. But the chain of words follow cognitive processes that allows you to understand what is being said. My biggest grievance in science is, well, I have two big grievances. My biggest grievance in science is the foundation of my 2 cents, and that is how a positively charged electron and how a negatively charged electron and a positively charged proton don't collide with each other when they have when they have electromagnetic attraction toward each other, and no obvious mechanism to stop them from interacting. But chemistry and quantum physics hand-waved an overly complicated justification for it. My theory is more elegant and more simple. The electromagnetic, basically opposites repel, electrons attract. The electron and the proton repel each other, held together by gravitation. Simple and elegant. To me, that just makes more sense. It also explains why gravity is weak at R scale, because most of the gravitational force is wasted maintaining the orbitals of the valence shell orbitals of electrons and protons. And the nucleus is made more stable by the inclusion of neutrons, and neutrons decay, protons decay into neutrons because the two positive charge protons interacting with each other absorbs each other positive charge, giving rise to neutrons, right? Like if you have two protons and they come together because they love each other very, very much, they come into relationship, physical, as close to physical contact with each other as they can, and through that interaction, the mass, the mass of one moves into what will become the neutron, and the positive electromagnetic charge of the other moves into the other one, and they kind of balance each other's fields out. So the neutron has a little bit more mass and less positive charge, and then the proton that it came into contact with it has a little bit more positive charge, but loses some mass. And this is also the reason why beta decay allows electrons to spontaneously be emitted out of the proton charge, because the charge is just that, it's just a charge. If you change the field, the electromagnetic charge is polarized by clockwise and counterclockwise. So the same positive charge, the same positive electric charge that a proton has is the same charge that the negative electron have. It's just the spins are different. So when you have too much positive charge in the proton through its nuclear interactions, it can create a turbulence the same way we've seen the other weather pattern that will result in the expulsion of an electron. That's a lot, I know, but I digress. So those are the two grievances I have. The fact that electrons and protons collide, but there's no justification for why they don't collapse in on themselves, and it's never been seen experimentally. And the other conflict, or the other grievance I have with science, I forgot the other grievance. I'd have to rewatch the video. We were discussing evolution, and I know the grievance. I lost my train of thought. This is why this stuff should be scripted. But anyway, I will address the issue of religion versus science, because I'm designing a system and I'm struggling with it because of these very principles. The biggest problem that I have with the way that scientists said that science is not wrong, science is wrong, is I don't agree that science is wrong. I think that wrong is a word that is overused in our culture, and wrong carries a connotation of submission. Wrong is like you're a kid and you're doing something and your parents actually do something, and then you do what you want to do instead of doing what your parents want, because you don't understand or respect the importance or the validity of what your parents are telling you to do, and then something happens as a consequence of what you're doing indirectly, and you try to defend yourself, and your parents get you to understand why your defense is wrong. To me, that is the foundation of when someone says that's wrong. It's like, what am I, as an adult, what exactly is it that I'm defending? If I go get a cup of water, it's like when I'm doing with Nessa and she's like, you need to stop eating meat because it's wrong. Why? How is it wrong? It's wrong because you have parasites. How do you know that I have parasites? If you're eating meat, you have parasites. Parasites don't live in fruits and vegetables. The very cooking process that we engage in kills all parasites if you do it correctly. Eating fresh whole fruit that has been sitting around for days and passed from state to state, I feel like that, what's this is? Add a Q&A sticker. I feel like that gives you a higher probability of having parasites than actually frying food, cooking food, right? That's not to say that you won't get parasites from eating meat. It's to say that you can't look at me as a person and tell me something about me without justifying it. But when you have a religion or a belief-based system, you can do that. If you believe that I have parasites and I'm not allowed to challenge your beliefs, then I have to just accept the fact that I have parasites. But whenever you're dealing with people that have these religions and these belief systems, there's always a diminishing energy. It's always you are a piece of shit, asshole, no good, never gonna amount to anything, loser person. It's always these unnecessary, egotistical, shaming, disregarding, disrespectful, degrading, bullying energy. And that's universal within religion. And you can sit here and argue, say, well, there's really good people in religion. There's really good people that practice religion. The actual religious doctrine makes you a terrible person. It makes you a horrible person. And you as an individual can stand in opposition to that. But I've met so many people that are fucked up. I'm just going to say it. I've met so many fucked up people in life that are also Christians. And I've met so many fucked up people in life that were also Muslims. And I've met so many fucked up people in life that were also Jehovah's Witnesses. Every time I encounter somebody that is doing the wrong thing in life or is on a path that is not necessarily decent, honest, good, kind, wholesome, they're always fucking practicing their religion. They're always validating and defending who they are based on their religion. They're always telling you how you're not good enough while they're doing the same exact thing, but God's got them. Jesus loves them. Like, and to me, when I was younger, I tried to be more humble. I tried to be more respectful. I tried to have more empathy because those are natural qualities that I have as a human. And I'm able to express those qualities as a human being because I don't practice a religion. I don't have to put myself in this judgmental, he's a heathen, she's a hoe. Like, I don't have to engage in those principles of social science. But the older I get, the more I just see it. The more I just see how the fuckery, like, how do you run apartment complexes and you just lie, cheat, and steal? How are you a police officer and you know that this person didn't do anything wrong, but you still are going to pull them over, and you're still going to go through the motions of what you were taught in your institution so that you can get your paycheck? Like, why do we go through the motions in life because society has conditioned us with religions? Just like he's started his video by saying, science isn't always right. Science is more wrong than anything else. It's just a predictive model. That's not accurate. That's religion. Religion is the thing that's always wrong. Religion by its definition is wrong. You believe in opposition to all evidence that something is correct, right? If I hold up this box and you don't know if it's full or empty, if you don't know if this box is full or empty, and you believe it's full or you believe it's empty, it's in opposition to your ignorance. You don't fucking know. You don't fucking know. So the best answer is, I don't know. I don't know. That's the correct and best and most valid answer you can give. I don't know. For some reason in our world, saying that you don't know is the worst possible way that you can say something. Like, the capacity for you to just simply say, I don't know, would reduce most social conflicts down to nothing, but it's used and weaponized against us day to day. If you're at work and you're like, hey, I don't know how to make a shake. Oh, here, let me show you. Oh, I'm too good of a person and I'm too intelligent and my ego is too high for me to let you show me how to make a shake, like I'm stupid. But you just said you don't know. So if you don't know, you could let me teach you and then you would fucking know. But why do you have to get into this fucking ego and all this extra bullshit about simply not knowing how to make a fucking shake when we've got 6 of them on order? Can I just show you how to make it? No, because you want me to make your shake so that you want me to make the shakes for you so that you don't have to do it, right? And then it's unnecessary ego and arrogance, and it's a totalitarian, authoritative hierarchy structure influenced by religion has to creep into every fucking thing. That's the reason why African American women don't want to clean the fuck up, right? Nessa has a problem with coming over here, folding my clothes for me. She doesn't have to. She's not my fucking slave. But she has a problem with doing it as a woman because society has convinced her that she's better than that. But she's still gonna fold clothes. She'll even go get a job folding clothes. You'll spend 8 hours a day working for another man, making profit for that other man that is not part of your household, only to come home and complain that your husband or your boyfriend doesn't have enough resources to give to you. Well, you're not helping me hustle up money for us You're leaving me for an extended period of time, going outside and engaging with other people outside of our family unit to help other family units to make more money for a lesser value than what you could get if we worked together. That's the reason why mom and pop shops don't exist anymore. The destruction of the destruction of the hierarchy of marriages and families is also the destruction of the middle class mom and pop shop. You don't go to restaurants anymore and see a husband and a wife running them. You don't go to corner stores and see husbands and wives running them. You don't go to laundromats and see husbands and wives running them. You don't go to pizza shops and see husbands and wives running them. We don't see that anymore in society. And that everyone's like, the middle class is gone. The middle class is gone because marriage is gone. The middle class literally was marriage. It was the finance of the legality of men and women also having sex with each other and being able to make money, because we've made it illegal for you to have sex with a woman for money. So if you can't have sex with a woman for money, then how are you supposed to have a girlfriend that you're having sex with that you're also working with? You just can't, right? Because that puts you in a situation where you're going to wind up being accused of using money to justify sex and extortion and blackmail, all this other bullshit. So we invented marriage. We invented marriage to get around that shit. That's the reason why when people get married and the wife is like, I want half of everything he's got, and you're looking like, it don't make any sense why the government would give her half of everything he's got when he's the one that made 100,000 or 500,000 or $500,000 on his own doing his fucking work, because she folded his fucking clothes so that he could make it to the studio on time, because she was in there washing those fucking dishes when he was sitting at his computer for 10 or 12 or 14 hours trying to get that one chord just right. She was actually supporting that shit. She actually was doing the fucking work that a wife does. And the energy that a person can put into another person gives you exponential value. It gives you exponential value, right? And we don't understand that at the individual level anymore because of the religion bullshit. Because the religions want us to give all of our money, take all the money we have in our household, and go give it to the king. Give everything to the king so the king can give a percentage of it back to you. Take everything you got, give it to the king. I'm not saying pharaohs, I'm not saying emperors, I'm saying king. Europeans want you to give them every fucking thing so they can distribute the wealth back to you at less than what you gave to them, because they believe in the second law of thermodynamics. They believe in getting more out than what they put in. And that's just the foundation of how religion works. This is the reason why you see the structures the way that it is. And artificial intelligence, social media, instant communication, chat rooms, live streaming, all this stuff broke a system that for them was perfect and elegant. Before social media and before the internet, the European structure of racism, discrimination, and hatred as the foundation of classism was in full force and worked exactly the way they needed it to, down to the T for social science. They did not have any way of predicting social media, mass communication, and now artificial intelligence. And there's a paradigm shift that's taking place right now for the next generation. If you are actually 18 watching this video, there is a paradigm shift taking place right now for your generation to where you can step over my generation. All of the adults, if it's not your sibling, your parents and above, if you're 18 right now, you are in a position to where you don't have to listen to our fucking authority. The problem is that if you're 18 right now, you're too ignorant to understand how to utilize a structure that was put in place for you to maximize your life, right? And this is the reason why I have a problem with him saying science doesn't know anything, it's just a belief. No, science proves and validates things that are valid. You can absolutely be confident that when you put your key into the car and turn it over, it's going to start. You can be absolutely confident that if you don't maintenance your car, if you let the parts of your car wear out, if you let your car suffer sufficient entropy, that when you turn your car over, the engine's going to rev and the motor's not going to start. This is not like science failed. It's just the basic principles of the way the world works. You can believe all fucking day things and have this gambler mentality of being oppositional to what might be right and what might not be wrong, and have all this unnecessary energy put into your predictive powers as a human being, and get the validation and the dopamine and all the other feel good emotional validation from guessing things right. You can do that. If that's how you want to live your life, you can do that. That's called religion. That's called belief. You can believe that my clothes will just magically fold themselves. You can do that. You can believe it. Or you can understand that for me to fold my clothes requires a certain amount of time. It's going to require a certain amount of work. It's going to require a certain amount of energy. And it's going to come with a loss of time for something else. So I have to manage all of the different things I need to do in my day, in my week, in my month, in my year, within my life, to achieve certain goals in a realistic way. And then when you move into that space as a scientist, and you have actual discipline as a scientist, all of the other stress goes away. All the other bullshit drops off. Because why am I folding my clothes? Why am I folding them? Because my mother spent 18 years yelling and screaming at me to fold my clothes? Why am I folding them? What is the function of folding my clothes and putting them away? What is the goal of that? Why do I engage in that behavior? Why am I washing my dishes? What is the goal of going in my kitchen and washing my dishes and cleaning them and putting them in the dishwasher and putting them away? What is the function? Like, why are the things that you're being told as a child, what is the validity of what you're being taught? And how does it apply to you once you turn 18 and become an adult? Is it important to fold my clothes and be 10 minutes late to work? Is that relevant? Is it relevant? Is it important for me to go to the barber every month and spend $30 a month cutting my hair? $30 a month. $30 times 12 is $360 a year. $360 a year to remove hair off of my body that's just going to grow back naturally. Is that energy worth it? $360 and probably about an hour. If I go once a month, it's 12 extra hours a month, 12 extra hours a year dedicated to just cutting my hair. As a man, is that relevant? Is that important? No, I don't think that it is. Is it important for a woman to maintain her beauty? I think that for women and young girls and females, the way that society is structured right now, I think that energy is never wasted. I don't think that a girl spending 3 hours of her day or 20 hours of her week investing in her beauty is wasted energy, because if a female is attractive and she's walking down the fucking street, she might get $20 randomly from a guy because of how beautiful she is. So even though she's not a prostitute, the validity of just putting energy into your physical appearance for females is just more valid for them. Nobody fucking cares about any of that shit for me. What people want for me to do is have a strong back and lift shit. Can you lift stuff? Can you move this item from this location to that location? Can you do it without bitching and complaining? Because you're not a woman. When she does it, she's going to bitch and complain. When you do it, can you do it without bitching and complaining? That's the way society is structured. What is the validity of the things that you're doing? If you go over to somebody's house and you see them living a certain way, can you see the order in their home and recognize how that order allows them to sustain that household? Can you make those connections? Can you see that? Or do you just have this low vibration and this low energy of yourself where you walk into somebody's home and you see trash not taken out and dishes not washed, and you assume ignorance, stupidity, laziness, right? Is that what you're doing? Because remember, I was sleeping in a fucking car at the rest stop. That's what I was doing before I moved to this house. The sacrifice I made to become a husband. So how did I go from homeless, sleeping in a car at the rest stop without a place to shower, without a kitchen to cook food, without somewhere to fold my clothes and put them away at night, without a way to have access to water so that I could brush my teeth and comb my hair? How did I, without all of this, and no support structure, no mother to call for money, no friends to call for money, how did I do it? When I went to get the apartment, they said, you need a cosigner with a credit score over 700. And I said to them, if I knew somebody with a credit score of 700, I probably wouldn't be homeless sleeping in my car. I don't know anybody that with that kind of credit score that can co-sign for me. So they hung up, and then a minute later they called back because they understood that I had twice rent. I told them I had twice rent. I've got twice rent saved, so I could give you twice rent, and you can let me move in, or I could go to somebody else that wants my money. So that's how I secured this apartment, because I had enough experience in life to make the kind of decisions, not choices, but decisions that will get me from where I wanted to be, that will get me from where I am to where I wanted to be, right? That is what science does. Belief is like, please God, help me get this house. That's it. That's it. No extra rational thinking about what steps need to take to get the house, what energy needs to go into getting the house, what is the most effective way to get the house, how do I achieve this house, what do I need to do? Like, you need to make 2.5 times rent. So if you know that you need to make 2.5 times rent, when you go somewhere and say how much is your rent, as soon as they give you that number, the first thing you do is ask yourself, is that what I'm making every month? 2.5 times $1,000 is $2,500. So if rent is $1,000, you have to ask yourself, am I making more than $2,500 for rent? If you live somewhere and rent is $3,000 and they want 2.5 times rent, you need $7,500 should be your monthly income to be able to afford that kind of place. Do you make that every month? Are you gonna pray to God to move their heart to reduce the rent for you so you can move in? Or are you going to try to find something within your means? Sometimes that literally means packing up your fucking shit and going somewhere where the cost of living is cheaper and more affordable for you. Sometimes that means, hey, let's get this 2-bedroom apartment together and split the rent, because between the two of us, we should be able to afford it. But society's got the average African American female looking at the average African American male like, I'm not giving you my money. I'd rather go to this guy that has been homeless living by himself for 6 months, stacking money, and extract all the wealth from him and then leave him with nothing, and then run off to the next guy and just keep doing that pattern for the rest of my life. I'd rather do that than to build a stable foundation. To me, that's more valid as a woman that just has to spend about 3 hours a day being beautiful to get wealth. All I do is pray to Jesus and then go over to this gentleman and then thank God for the physical manifestation that this person gives me. Everything I extract from this individual, I thank the church and I give the church 10% of it. That's what's happening. That's the reason why we're in the state that we're in. And I balance the two between belief and faith in religion, in science and discipline. The discipline of it, the choice versus. I asked on my channel, on my Facebook page, what's the difference between decisions and choices? And my brother, he kind of explained that decisions is how you go about making choices. And then another Facebook friend, an older Facebook friend of mine, she said that you make choices based on you make choices based on the limits. What you are able to do determines your choices. And it's basically like you choose what you can, and you decide. You can make decisions, you can decide on your choices. You can decide on your choices. Or you have a limited number of choices that you can choose from. And when you choose from a limited number of that becomes your decision. And to me, that is the foundational difference between the way men think and the way women think. Because men don't have an inherent limitation built into our thinking processes. Women have a understanding of their physical weaknesses when it comes to their interaction with men. Women know that they can't force men to do things through force and violence. the way that men can force them to do things through force and violence. So they have a more manipulative nature because they have, I won't say manipulative, they have a more persuasive nature than the average man. So women tend to be more persuasive and men tend to be more self-sufficient and self-dependent. So since women are naturally more codependent, they have a more persuasive nature, not manipulative nature. So when they're making decisions, they're not making decisions, they're making choices. The reason why they're always making choices is because they're always approaching everything with the understanding that they have a position that has this inherent deficiency of needing to persuade men to do things for them, right? Men don't operate from that, so we make decisions. We know that we're limited in our choices, but we decide things. And when we decide things, we execute plans and we have procedures based on what we can and can't do. So we operate from our capacity to get things done and what we know we should be able to do and what we shouldn't be able to do. And we move with that energy so that we can decide what we're going to do. And then when we decide we're going to do something, that's when we become stubborn and focused and engage in behavior that people would associate with being addictive or habitual, because we've decided this is what we're going to do and we're going to approach this with everything that we have in opposition to anyone trying to get us to not do the thing that we want and to not deviate from that energy, right? And then the persuasive woman comes along and says, doesn't he know that he can't do that? Doesn't he understand that that's not going to work? Doesn't he realize that this, and that's all coming from this energy, from them not understanding how masculine men actually engage in behavior that is oppositional to nature by our nature, right? It's like they were at the ground state until I picked them up. But persuasive women will be like, child one, can you go get those Nutter Butters off the floor and bring them to me, please? And then the child will go get the Nutter Butters and bring them to her. And then she'll be like, thank you. She didn't have to do the actual work. All she had to do was say the words, speak it, like they always say, speak it into existence and it'll manifest. All she had to do was say the words. But it took the child to engage in masculine energy to do the physical labor. Like that's the disconnect in society right now. That's because we spend so much time on our phones and we spend so much energy on social media, and we are so busy fixated on this idea that the service industry is gonna just, because everyone's all worried about the AI bubble. The service industry is the one that's about to explode. Service is about to be done, son. We're going to go back to having to barter and trade and sell things again. We're going to go back to having to physically exchange resources for money. This is what's about to happen. And this is the thing that the average person don't realize. But this is what's coming for everyone. And I know this is like a super random rant and tangent, but there's just a lot of lack of compartmentalizing religion versus science. There's a lot of people trying to move science into the religious space, and a lot of religious people trying to dismantle the science and restructure it as if it's religion. And it's not necessary. It is never necessary to challenge religion with science. It's never challenging religion with science is like an adult trying to tell a child. It's like an adult trying to use a child's logic to validate something that only an adult can understand, right? If you're an adult and you tell a child, fold your clothes because you should organize them so that you can put them away, because the reason why you fold your clothes is so that you can make more space and have a more functional environment. And when you have an empty ass fucking apartment with no furniture in it, I don't need to make any extra space. So why should I put the energy into folding them? I work in a warehouse. Why should I? Do you think people care that I come to work and my shirts are wrinkled? No one fucking cares. No one cares. No one's interested. The world don't care. Doesn't matter. So why put the energy into folding them? You know what's important? Clean clothes. Clean clothes is important. Folded clothes, wrinkled clothes, stained clothes, not important. Clean clothes that don't stink, important. Those clothes are clean. They're not folded, they're not put away because I don't have anywhere to put them away. And then Nessa will say, well, you could hang them up. I could hang them up, but that would require me to actually put the energy into hanging them up. And I would rather put that energy into doing my homework or fixing food for myself or doing my 2-mile run or, I don't know, resting. Because at my age, the most important thing that I can do for me is fucking rest. And it sucks that I have to constantly remind myself that you're not being lazy, you're just resting. You're not being lazy, you're just resting. You're not procrastinating, you're just resting. Because you're not 21 anymore. Your body is going to break if you don't give it the time it needs to properly repair itself. The same way that you're going to put $600 into your car because your car is broke and you need to repair it, it's the same way that you need to dedicate a certain amount of your day to your 43-year-old body because you can run 2 fucking miles every 3 days and you should maintain that, right? You should maintain that. That's something that is of value even if you can't see the value in it. And even though there's only 24 hours in a day, and you feel like taking an extra hour or 2 outside of your sleep cycle is counterproductive and a waste of time and a waste of energy, you're in good health. You should maintain your good health. Even though people can tell you that you have parasites because you're eating meat, it doesn't change the reality of the world. You created a digestive life system for a reason, and all of the principles that is in it is giving you the understanding and information you need to know that this is the proper course. Because you don't believe in a fucking God that's going to bless you and raise you up and provide for you and take care of you. You know that shit's bullshit. You know that the people around you don't have enough extra resources. It's not that they hate you. They simply don't have enough extra resources, Paul, to help you in any way, shape, or form. So you need to help yourself. You need to make good, solid decisions for you to validate you in a way that will help you be the person you're trying to be. And don't think about that as selfish, because as a functional member of society, you should be able to do what you want if it's honest, kind, decent, humble, and responsible, and it's moral, ethical, and legal. And what you do in society should perpetuate society. Because there's nothing that you want to do that there's not a market of people that want the resources that you're trying to provide. You just live in an institutionalized racism culture in society that has made it difficult for you to do the things that everyone else is doing that doesn't have your complexion. So this is what I do instead of praying. Like I don't verbally talk about my problems. I take my problems and I quantify them into what is relevant and what is a waste of my energy. And in doing that, you reduce your stress, right? I don't want to live in this apartment. I want to live in a house. Is that a problem though? Is living in a house a problem after spending a year and a half or 2 years married living in your car? Is that an actual problem? Is living in this house a choice? Is living in this apartment a choice that you made? Yeah. You based on your decision makings, you chose this apartment so that you could get rid of the other adversity, which was the car. I could have said, I'm gonna get out of this car and get a house, but a house is gonna want references. Where am I gonna get references if I'm living in a fucking car? How am I gonna show that I can pay rent when I live in a fucking car? So you have to be able to make these types of decisions and choose. And right now, you have the belief-based way of doing things and you have the scientific way of doing things. And it irritates me to hear this guy sit there like, I'm an evolutionist and I'm an evolutionary biologist and science doesn't prove anything. Science is always wrong. Science is not true. There's nothing. Science isn't right. And then when you get like a bunch of people that are like, vaccines don't work. How do you know vaccines work? Science it doesn't work. Science is always wrong. How do you get what I'm saying? Like if you got high level professional Caucasian men saying that science is false, that there's nothing true about science. You know what the best evidence for evolution is? The single greatest and best evidence of evolution, and you can, as a scientific experiment, you can do this right now in your own home with the people around you. The best evidence of evolution is the fact that you look like your parents. The fact that you look like your parents and there are similar traits between you and your brothers and sisters is the best evidence that we evolve over time. Because how do you look like your mother and your father at the exact same time if there is no such thing as evolution? If the biological traits are not passed down to the offspring, then how is it that everybody looks like their parents in a controlled way? What I'm saying is this. I look like my mother and my father. You look like your mother and your father. Evolution is the reason why you will never be born from my mother and my father, and I will never be born from your mother and your father. Does that make sense? The patterns that you can expect from the parents predict what the children will look like, right? It's not a random offspring. Tom looks like Tom's mother and Tom's father. You know, like let me put it in a more easily digested way, even though there are exceptions to the rules. You would never expect Asian parents to give birth to Haitian children. You would never expect Hindu Indian parents to give birth to Native American Indian children, right? You just don't expect it. Is it possible? It's possible. You just don't expect it. You don't expect European parents to give birth to Korean children. You just don't expect it. Is it possible? It's definitely possible. You just don't expect it. The mechanism of that is evolution. Because the fundamental foundational mechanism of evolution is mutation. The capacity by which things mutate gives rise to evolution. Because mutation can be a detriment or it can be a benefit. An organism can benefit from mutation or it can be detrimental to mutation. When I was studying taxonomy in my 20s, when I was designing a video game that one day I'll be able to make, one of the things that I found the most fascinating about evolution that made sense to me, I don't know why this clicked for me, but it made so much sense to me. One of the most fascinating things about evolution was that Charles Darwin noticed that there was more diversity amongst species on small islands than there were on continents. And he was able to prove evolution because of that. Because the islands were so small, there were islands, being what islands are, have limited resources, and those limited resources created biological niche ecosystems inside of it. They created nested ecosystems inside of nested ecosystems, and within those niche nested ecosystems, organisms could adapt into those smaller ecosystems, right? And in adapting into those smaller ecosystems, there was more diversity between ecosystems within ecosystems than there was across vast plains of continents that were large, right? That was what validated evolution for him as a mechanism, and that's how he came up with natural selection. Because creatures and islands had to compete over resources, so they would adapt to a very specific niche, and they would fight over and hoard their defense of that niche from other creatures, and then in doing so, they would evolve in parallel against each other, right? So that was the mechanism that described evolution. And to me, it just made sense that there would be so much more genetic diversity on a small island than there would be across vast continents, even though the rate of mutation on an island should be significantly less, because there should be less time for offsprings to diverge enough to diverge. But diverging as a mechanism of reproduction would happen no matter how dense the reproductive population is. I hope that makes sense. If you have 100 people reproducing and 1 mile by 1 mile volume, which is really tight for 100 people, the genetic diversity of those people won't change if they're in 10 miles by 10 miles. The genetic diversity of these people in 1 mile won't change. If you have let me say it this way: if you have 100 people reproducing in a volume of 1 mile versus a volume of 10 mile, the mutation rate will be fixed, right? As an influencer of mutation, which is our environment, if you put 100 people in a stable environment, the mutation rate for them is going to be constant, and the stability of the environment is going to cause the mutations to also be more constant. If you take those same 100 people and put them in a more chaotic environment, the mutation rate for them is going to remain constant, but the chaotic environment is going to select those individuals that were able to survive the adversities of the environment over those that could not survive the adversities of the environment. So the mutation divergence will be greater because those individuals that did not mutate in a way that provided a benefit will die off and will no longer be able to propagate their genes, right? So this is how the predictive power of science actually proves and validates something about what we see in evolution, opposed to just saying, oh, there's no way to prove anything and that everything is false and that the values don't apply. If you can see it, you can explain it. And if you can't explain it, you're either stupid or you're too ignorant. And if you're ignorant, then you can just rebuild your understanding until you reach a place where you can understand. What happens with faith-based people is that 9 times out of 10, what they know to be true is built on something that undermines the validity of their God. And for them to accept the piece of scientific evidence as true, they have to reject their fundamental understanding of God. And they would rather not reject their fundamental understanding of God. They would rather reject the information. And that keeps them childish. It keeps them in a lower mental state. They have all this information in their head, but they have dichotomized it in ways that won't allow them to elevate their mentality from being an adolescent to an adult. And then unfortunately, we have to deal with these people in society. We have to deal with people like with the post when the gentleman said, I had like 60 people. I basically said that the evidence of the experiment was, the post was about an experiment that was done where human scientists tried to create a human primate. And then they tried to inseminate a chimpanzee and it failed. And all I simply said was, this is proof that humans didn't evolve from primates. That's all I said. And that one comment got like 60 something likes. And somebody in that post said, the number of people that liked your comment makes me wish for humanity to die. And I was like, I said to myself, and this is kind of the reason why I'm making this video, why I'm wasting my time that I should be spending working on my homework to do this, because you shouldn't be so emotionally invested in the idea that you are more superior than somebody else to the point where you would rather the whole world die than to have to face the possibility that you're wrong. Because you don't have to you don't have, The things that you say are not beyond your control. You don't have to say stupid fucking shit. You don't. You don't have to open your mouth and say a bunch of dumb fucking shit. It's not necessary. It's not important. It's not relevant. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't put food on the table. It doesn't make you a better person. Making somebody else feel small so that you can make yourself feel big is your problem. That's your problem. The fact that you have to engage in that is something that you need to work on. Being humble and content in life, it's not a shortcoming. It's not a failure. People like I said before, when Nessa's like, oh, what do you think that you should change about your life? How do you feel about your success rate or where you are in life? Do you wish there were things that you would have did differently? And it's just like, for me, it's always no. It's always no. When I was homeless on the street because I had to pay child support and my daughter's mother lied in court and made up a bunch of false accusations and racism allowed her to get full custody of my daughter so that I would have to pay child support, nothing about any of that bothered me because the only decision I made was I wanted to be a father. And I can't be a father if I don't have a child, and I need a woman to have a child. And she agreed to have a child with me and start a family with me. She didn't ask me if I wanted to pay child support for 18 years. She didn't ask me if I wanted to get her pregnant and then run off and leave her alone to raise a child. She didn't ask me any of that shit. She lied, cheated, and stole. I was trying to be a decent human being. I was trying to be honest and humble. I didn't think that those were character flaws. I still don't think those are character flaws. I still think that is the correct way to operate and move in the world. I don't think that there's anything to benefit from. You see what happened with Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk got on the platform. Charlie Kirk grew up in an environment where he understood every fucking thing. He understood everything. He saw what happened to Martin Luther King when he spoke on peace. He saw what happened to Malcolm X when he spoke on peace in opposition to racial white hatred. He saw the shit. He saw what was going on in the world. Immaterial. Everybody sees what's happening. Everybody understands what happens and what goes on. You just want your slice of bread. You know that it's better if everybody has a loaf of bread. You just want your slice of bread. You know that there's a stockpile of fucking bread. Everybody knows that there's more bread out there than we're getting access to. We all fucking know it. But we're all individually focused on our own slice of bread. And Charlie Kirk knows that they have all the fucking bread. I'm hungry, you're hungry, he's hungry, they have all the bread. He knows that shit. But what did Charlie Kirk do? Hey guys, look, they promised us more bread if we take bread from those people. So all we have to do is take their bread and then they'll let us keep their bread. And then we can have more bread. But Charlie, don't the ultra elite have access to more bread than they need? Yes. But one day, you too could be ultra elite. You just have to help them take the bread from them. He knows this shit. They understand all this shit. But what do? They get on the fucking platform, they say fucking Jesus, and everybody's like, okay, let's give them a pass because they're speaking on Jesus. Do their behavior in their environment reflect the values that they're speaking on? No, it doesn't. Unless you are a fucking racist white, then it does. It absolutely does. And that's the reason why I say we need to stop giving religion a pass. Because at the end of the day, religion says that it is meant to teach good and to foster cooperation and to show you how to be a good person. When I tell people that I'm not a Christian, they come to me all the time and they say, well, how do you operate with any level of morals or good standing if you don't believe in God? Because I don't operate from the opposite. I don't wake up every day thinking that people owe me something, or that if there's an opportunity for me to take from somebody, that I will. Like that energy I don't carry that energy. I don't need to. I don't need to rob and steal and murder and take from other people to sustain myself. And I think that it is weird in a world where we see people robbing, stealing, and murdering and killing each other in a society that we just find that it's just acceptable and okay. I think that that's weird. I think that it's confusing. Like, why do we pay for electricity? We pay for it because the people that are responsible for sustaining the system should have to work. They should have to earn their living. Why would we imagine a world where you could become a civic service member and your income as a civic service member will be a fixed flat rate that will be given to you by the government without the government having to justify where the money comes from. If you work in electricity, they will pay you an hourly wage to run the power plants. And the government doesn't have to, the power plants don't have to provide profit. They're publicly ran, publicly funded domains, paid for by taxes. Well, our taxes shouldn't pay for free energy because that I don't want to have to pay for free electricity. I shouldn't have to pay taxes for you to have free electricity. Who has to pay for it? The government could just write the fucking check. Civic service people that are in the civic service domain could just get money for being in the civic service domain, and the government could just create some type of balancing system that says that for this many people, only this many people can be in civic service, so that there wouldn't be a saturation of civic service. You don't need 50 people to, if you need 10 people to do the job, you don't need to hire 50 people to do that job. That's common sense. But if you know a certain number of people are required to do a certain thing, you could just throw the money at it. You know that you need a power plant to produce electricity, right? Not a choice. You know that to make electricity, you need a power plant. If you need a power plant, somebody has to build it. If somebody has to build it, construction labor has to go into that. We said that enforced free labor is fucking illegal, so you have to pay these people to build this structure. Who's gonna pay them? Why can't the government just give them the fucking money? Why can't the government just pay a company, private or publicly funded, the resources that's required to build the infrastructure, to run the power plant? Why can't you just go to college, get a degree, and then go work in the infrastructure, not the entire system, just the one that is required to justify it? What is the point of being an electrician if there's no electricity? Why would I go to college and get a degree to become an electrical engineer if I go to your house and there's no power because the central power plant doesn't fucking exist, right? So why can't the government pay for the power plant? Why can't the government pay for the actual infrastructure? And then beyond that range, which is owned and operated and trademarked and licensed by the government, from that structure, why can't the other infrastructure interface into that? So electricity is free. Because if electricity was free, then you could actually do more in society because you wouldn't have to pay for that utility. Why can't roads be free? Why does there have to exist a toll bridge? Why does it have to be a thing? The money isn't going where it needs to go anyway. So why does it have to be a thing? Why can't food be free? Well, food can't be free because the people that produce food have to eat and they need to get paid. And why can't you compartmentalize what aspects of the industry would be covered by government just paying them directly versus what aspects of the industry would be considered private and have to be funded privately? Why can't there just be actual walls put in place so that you have to go, like you have to either be this thing or not be this thing, like NASA? Why can't NASA just be why can't NASA be the forefront of advanced space exploration to where all of the, like research and development is a bottomless pit when it comes to financing. You will spend money investing in things that is just going to be a waste of time and energy in the long run, right? Why can't NASA just be that? Why can't NASA just do the research, development, the experimental science, and the actual applied science, and make the data publicly available so that everyone can benefit from having advancements in space technology? Why can't NASA just do that? Why can't we just fund that instead of saying it's a waste of money to build rockets that aren't gonna go anywhere, blah blah blah? Like, we know that it's gonna require that push. We know that To go to Mars is going to be fucking expensive. We know that shit. So why can't we just say this is what they're doing? This is what their annual budget is going to be. Why can't we do that? Why can't we just give NASA 10% of the military budget and be like, oh, we give NASA 10% of the military budget because we need them to build technology in the event of an extraterrestrial crisis. What if we admit to the public that aliens exist, then maybe there'll be a panic. Or you could just let them know that aliens don't exist right now, but coming soon. So maybe we should just prepare for when they get here. Science versus religion. The way that those two blend into each other and conflict with each other and create chaos and disorder within each other is just super counterproductive. Super counterproductive. And I don't really know how or why or where. I've been live streaming a lot because I'm putting together the Microsoft Life System, which is based on my clock and my calendar and the methodology of how to actualize what it is you're trying to do in life without having to speak it into existence or just believe hard enough. Like Dave Chappelle said, yeah, man, just keep your chin up. Like, my chin is a problem. You think the problem in my life is that my chin is a problem? Like, the relationship between the height of my chin to the ground is why I'm struggling? Like, that's not the fucking problem. Positive affirmation and positive reinforcement, that stuff has its place, but it's just one step. Do you know why people complain? Do you understand what the function of complaining is? Do you know why? Okay, why people complain and why women nag. There's two different things. Seek God in your heart, not by your understanding, for pride is the great deceiver, and man has always been wrong. Well, you missed the whole beginning part of this story. I mean, about this tangent when I explain what wrong is. Wrong is what happens when children are talking to their parents, when their parents is telling them to do something and they don't do it, and then other unnecessary consequence occurs because of them not doing the first thing that their parents asked of them. When they try to justify and defend themselves, that's when you become wrong. And that fucking energy, that's when you're wrong. If you're going to work, and I work at McDonald's and I'm trying to make a Big Mac, and I'll say a cheeseburger. Cheeseburger has onions, pickles, ketchup, mustard, cheese, hamburger patty, and a slice of bread. Oh, and a slice of cheese. And they want a cheeseburger without pickle. And I make a cheeseburger. I leave the pickle on there. And I send that shit up. And then the manager's like, hey, Paul, this cheeseburger was supposed to be without pickle. I'm not fucking wrong. I made a mistake. I didn't do anything wrong. I made it according to the standard of the company. My limitations as a human, I made a mistake. So you know what I do? I acknowledge that I made the mistake. I recognize that I made the mistake. And I make a cheeseburger without pickle. And I send that shit up. And then you know what happens? The very next order is a regular cheeseburger. Trying to get me to understand how me being wrong and broken and not good enough and a failure and a loser and be afraid of life and know that I'm going to go to fucking hell. All of that extra energy creates unnecessary bullshit ass stress that creates conflict. It just creates unnecessary fucking conflict. I don't need to be walking around in my apartment scared that I'm going to go to hell, worried that I'm not going to get accepted by God, understanding that I don't fucking love myself, and that if I don't go to church this Sunday and pay my tithes, that I'm going to go to hell, and that people are going to hate me, and that I'm not good enough, and that I'm a loser, and that I don't need any of that extra fucking energy. None of that energy fucking works. None of that shit's going to get you anywhere in life. It's not. It's not going to get you any fucking where. My father said, if people tell you that you got $1 million in your pocket, it does not put $1 million in your pocket. My biological father said that to me enough fucking times that it started to make fucking sense. It started to make sense. All that praying and all that other bullshit. You know how I know there's an afterlife? Because there's a fucking life. Because there's a life. There are people that don't fucking exist on this planet yet as a principle of science. There are people on this planet that don't fucking exist yet that will be being born right now, 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now, an hour from now, 2 days from now, a week from now, a year from now. For as long as humanity exists, there will be children being born. And where are those children coming from? Where are they coming from? And where are they going back to? The very fact that life exists, reality is here and present, is all the evidence that I need to know that beyond zero probability, there is an afterlife. Child seeks to find their parent when lost, and the adult seeks to be found. Did I say go to church? No, seek God in your heart or trip your pride. Your choice. Your temple is your heart. So here's the issue when it comes to this whole God thing. Religion has convinced us to worship white men. And I'm just going to say that shit just like that. Religion has convinced us to worship white men. When you say seek God in your heart, I hear seek white men in my heart, and I'm not a fucking homosexual. I don't worship white men. I don't chase after white penises. That's the reason why women have a stronger connection to religion than men, because they are not going to church to worship Jesus. They're falling in love with the first man that they have an emotional, romantic relationship with. And then we, me, and you, and all the other men on this planet have to be second to fucking Jesus Christ, which is a white man. We get friend zoned by that energy. That's literally what's going on. That's literally what's going on. My biological father explained it in plain fucking English. He said, if you as a black man, if you as an African American man got a picture of a white woman and went home and you were married to your African American wife, and you took this picture of this white woman, any woman, and this Caucasian female, and you put it on your wall, and she asked you, she said, why'd you put that picture on your wall? And you're just like, I'm gonna start praying to this woman because this is my Lord and Savior. She will be offended and she will become jealous. So why then is it okay for African American women to bring all of these images of Jesus Christ into the house, into the bedroom, and into the sanctuary? Why is it okay for women, African American women, to build all these shrines and all these statues to this white image of this white man and worship and praise this white image of this white man all the time? Why do they get to put that energy into that and it's just okay in our households? When we know the fucking history. See, the problem isn't that the image of a white man is inherently evil. That's not the problem. The conflict is me as a person that was raised in America, that went to school, elementary, middle, high school, and learned American history and understand the principles behind slavery and who the slave masters were and who the slaves were. Why would I look in the mirror and see my dark skin and my nappy hair and then allow my wife, who has dark skin and nappy hair like me, why would I allow her to put the slave master on our wall when we watch Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X walk down and do all of this shit? When I go out into the fucking world and I have a white fucking cop pull me over when I know I didn't do anything fucking wrong and harass me for 30 minutes, why would I come home to the same fucking image on my wall every goddamn day? Why? Why do I have to argue and fight with my wife because she wants me to bow down to this fucking white phallus when I'm supposed to be bowing down to her? That's why there's a disconnect. That's the reason why these women are unhappy and miserable, because men are worshiping them, but they think that we should be worshiping Caucasian men. They feel like our energy to them is misplaced because we should be worshiping men. It's natural for a woman to want to worship a man. She's supposed to be worshiping us. You know what I mean? That we're supposed to be their fucking God. I mean that the energy is supposed to go, the energy of the woman, the energy of the wife is not supposed to go past the husband to the fucking church. The energy of the wife is supposed to go into the husband. But it's not going into the husband because the husband doesn't look like Jesus. It's skipping the husband and going to Jesus. And the allegiance to Jesus is the conflict. That's the conflict. The conflict is, I need you, the man, to understand that Jesus is the source of everything. And I'm looking at my wife and I'm saying, I don't worship your fucking God. I'm the source. I'm the one that's going to go out here and do fucking work and do labor. So how about you support me instead of being mad at me because of bullshit ass systems that were put together without my consent? I'm not responsible for creating any of this shit, and I don't like any of it, and I want to move in opposition to it. So why are you mad at me for moving in opposition to it? When I come home because of my opposition and it creates adversities because I'm in opposition, because it's better and it benefits our children, why are you upset with me? Why do you expect me to conform to being a fucking slave? Right? Like, why? So every time I hear someone say to me, and I don't have a problem with the idea of God. I understand that religion is structured so that we will worship Europeans. I don't trust anything that was written down by human beings as valid because another person said this is valid. If I didn't listen to my parents when I was a child, why would I listen to a bunch of adults in a church setting that's telling me that this is real? I didn't even believe my fucking parents when they was telling me stuff was real. What makes you right? Your skin complexion? What we got? I need to come up with a better setup. You focus on worldly things and claim they define the spirit. The color of things don't matter. The color of things don't matter. But 300 years of slavery. If the color of things didn't matter, then slavery would have been universal. Europeans used the validity of a white Jesus to justify the African skin complexion and the African hair texture as inherently evil and slaves for life. Because classism has always existed. There has always been balance in society. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with the capacity for the average person to just think critically. There has always been people in the world that didn't have enough. There has always been people in the world that had more than they needed to have. There has always been people there were always super elites that had super amounts of every fucking thing. But there used to be balance. It used to be possible for you to have wealth beyond measure and still wind up homeless on the street. It used to be possible for you to be homeless as fuck. JP Morgan? Is it JP Morgan? Who's the oil guy? I'm bad with names. It might not be JP Morgan. No, it's not JP Morgan. It's the oil guy. I don't know the oil guy. And Alexa's not working. Alexa, are you working? No, you're not working. Anyway, the guy that's responsible for oil, not JP Morgan, the other guy responsible for oil, he was fucking broke. He was poor. He was poor. He wound up going from being dirt fucking poor to one of the wealthiest men in the fucking planet, to the point where he had so much wealth that he didn't go to court. He was sitting in front of the Senate. The Senate had him, the United States Senate had him on trial. You know how much money you have to make to where you literally are sitting in front of the Supreme Court of Justice, like at the actual highest level of the political structure of the country, to have your corporations dismantled, and they invent a word like monopoly for you? That has always been a thing. What has changed in this world is that some really smart Caucasian was like, what if, hear me out, what if we said Africans were slaves and Europeans were not? Just hear me out. Like, we know that there's always these balances in the world and people can this and that, but what if we just made the Africans all slaves and just forced them to be the working class? And then any child we have, they'll always be, prosperous. Our white children will always be prosperous, and all the African children can always be not prosperous. What if we just did that? And so they ran with that shit. My phone's gonna die. That's a sign. I don't have any way to charge it. No, I don't. I guess the stream's ending because I don't have. Well, I'll have to rearrange some stuff. this one. It's not going to be as cozy. I don't have to, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna have to just do it this way. I have to be further away for this camera because I don't have it set up for Facebook. I actually have a YouTube channel, so it would be better if you went to my 2 cent to actually watch the stream. But yeah, so when you sit there and you say, well, your worldly possessions, don't be of the earth, don't be of the world, be of God, be of spirit. One of the things I noticed as a child was that my parents and the adults around me were always running to the church to give them worldly shit. They were always giving them their worldly time. They was always giving them their worldly money. They was always giving them their worldly resources. And guess who was getting neglected in the process? This guy, because he didn't like fucking church. My father didn't raise me to go to church. So my mother was constantly going to church, doing her tithes and doing this and doing that. And my aunties and uncles, well, not my uncle, but my aunties and all my other family members were always focused on providing for the church, provide for the church, give to the church, give to the church. For what? So you can buy your way into heaven? What is the church doing to make life on the earth better? Everything you see around you is science. All the cars, all the houses, indoor plumbing, electricity, heat, Amazon, drugs, even fucking drugs. It's all science. What is the church doing to make society better? That's what I want to know. What is the actual contribution? You know, people use God as a justification for their pain and their suffering and the capacity by which you endure. I don't think you have to endure bullshit. I think you can just say you're full of shit, I don't agree with that, and you can move on. I think that's the most effective way to get shit done in the world. What is the point in me spending 20, 30, 40, 50 years being humble and complacent to other people's bullshit? Why the fuck should I worship a God that is not doing for me and I can clearly see that it's doing for everyone else? We have a word in our society called accessory. If I drive you to the bank so you can rob the bank, and I sit in my car and you come run out the bank with money and you jump in my car and I drive you to your safe house or whatever, when the police come to arrest you, they're going to arrest me too. When I say I didn't do anything, I'm not responsible for him robbing and stealing, I shouldn't be held accountable for his actions, they say you are an accessory. Those are man's laws. So if I can be an accessory to a bank robbery by simply providing them with a vehicle to drive in, or if they find out that I had knowledge that this was going to happen and I didn't say anything, then I'm still considered an accessory because I knew about it and I chose not to do anything about it. I'm still considered an accessory to some degree. Why is it okay for all-knowing, all-powerful, present everywhere God to let me be homeless for 2 fucking years and sleep in my car for 2 years? Why isn't it because of God that I'm homeless? Why is it all on Paul? It's all on Paul because of the decisions Paul made, because of the choices Paul made. It's all Paul's fault that Paul's life is the way that Paul's life is. I'm not all powerful. I'm not present everywhere, and I don't know every fucking thing. I make the best decisions and the best choices I can with the information that I got on hand. And sometimes the shit doesn't work. But the all-powerful, all-knowing, present everywhere God, he didn't come to me and be like, hey, don't marry your wife because your wife is full of shit and she's a bitch and she's taking care of you and she hates you. So She's planning on just she wants you to fail so she can just sit back and laugh at your story. Why didn't he come to me and say that shit? Because the thing that religion always does is it always automatically says that you are the problem, everything is your fault, you're the reason that your life is the way that it is. That's what religion does. It takes no accountability and it takes no responsibility. They just want you to come to them, worship with them, fellowship with them, and give them money so they can pay their bills, so they can pay their rent. And the whole function of religion, is so that you will comply with man's laws. That's it. It's just justification of why people are in authority. Christianity exists with the image of Jesus so that Africans won't question why Europeans are telling them what they should do. Africans should be looking at Europeans and saying, get the fuck off of our land and leave our resources alone. But they don't, because they've been given Jesus. They've been given Jesus and salvation and told, and it's easy to convince somebody that Jesus is the way after you've tortured them for multiple generations and have instilled fear into their daughters and their wives and their children. It's easy. It's fucking easy. If you take a woman and you torture her for 10 fucking years and then you let her have kids and you let that broken woman raise those kids and she puts the same fear into those kids that was put into her, it's very easy for those kids to get up and worship the image of a white man. And it doesn't make any sense to me that in 2025, the next generation is just going to openly walk into the same fucking bullshit. Take the religion, take the faith, take the appreciation of God, take the joys and the wonders of being loved by Jesus and all that other shit. Get rid of all of the other unnecessary toxic bullshit. Just get rid of it. Just get fucking rid of it. There's no need. If you're a Caucasian and you're 18 and you're going to work and they're doing some racist shit, hey, we don't do racism anymore. It's 2025. It's that simple. But we don't do that anymore. We don't do that. That's not something we do anymore. That's all it takes. That's all it fucking takes. That's all it takes is for one generation to not inherit the bullshit, not the curses, none of the institutional, generational curse, none of that. Just don't, listen to your fucking parents. It's not hard. Do what your parents are telling you to do. It's all you have to do. One fucking generation of humans just stop doing the bullshit. That's all it would take. One generation. It would take one generation to listen to their parents and stop doing stupid shit. Stop being racist. Stop being arrogant. Stop being hypocritical. Show respect. Be decent. Be humble. Take your fucking L's. Get back up and keep doing the right thing. That's all it would take. One generation doing that. That's all it would take. It would take one generation. It would take one wealthy ass white man with over $400 or $500 million to die and pass that asset to his children for them to go to the company and say, we are no longer running this company under institutional racism. We are going to be an equal opportunity employee and we're not doing none of that high school shit anymore. If you do high school shit, I'm going to let you go to those companies and do high school shit. That's all it would take. If every last generation started doing, if everybody started doing that, if all of the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that are coming up right now started inheriting the institutional white wealth and started putting in actual principles that would actually stop the bullshit ass 1% elitist mentality and classism, by the time that I die, the quality of life across the globe will go up a level. And it's not like it's impossible. It literally is impossible. It's not impossible. So, history is the past and you live in the past. I live in the present, baby. I got ChatGPT. I'm designing video games. I'm on social media, streaming at the age of 43. I live in the present. You built your entire ego around a book that was 2,000 years old when I was a child. I want you to think about that shit. When I was a child being raised to be Christian, that book was already 2,000 years of history the validity of that book was based on the fact that it was 2,000 years of written history. And that was back in the 80s and in the 90s. So you're reading a book that is, for me, 30 something plus years old. But you want to tell me that I'm living in the past. You just don't want to understand that religion, not God, but religion, has an alignment with white people and with Christianity. And that Jesus is the archetypal image that forces you to be in compliance when you get pulled over by the fucking police. When a racist ass white police officer pulls you over, the reason why we don't get out of our fucking cars as grown fucking men and murder that son of a bitch so that we can take one more racist person off the planet. They were gonna murder us anyway, so we might as well go to their fucking prison because there's one less fucking racist person for our children to deal with. But the reason why we don't do that is because we was given the image of Jesus. That's the problem. That is the core problem. Because everybody wants to be in compliance to a broken fucking system. You have no problem with standing outside in your community and looking across the street and seeing all of the disparity and poverty and poorness and low quality living as an African or as an African American or as any underclass person on this planet, and not being angry and upset at God for that shit. You want to be angry and upset at your fucking neighbors, but you don't want to hold God accountable for the lack of the quality of your own life. And you get stagnated in this conditioned state to stay in that place so that you can work for less and receive less and be grateful and thankful for less and praise God for giving you fucking less. Why? Why? In 2025, why? I get it. Like, I understand the need for it. Back in the day when there wasn't enough for everybody, there's enough resources for everyone. And the first thing someone that says when I say that is, well, there's not really enough resource for everyone. But there really is enough resources for everybody. There really is enough resources for all of us. If everybody can have a fucking cell phone, then there's enough resources for everyone. We've reached a place where when I was a kid, I would have never gotten a phone. At the age of 10 in the 90s, I would have never been given $1,000 any fucking thing. The cap was 100. Anything that was over $100, I wasn't getting it. I was not gonna get it. When I asked my mom for a Nintendo 64 and they said it was $69.99, I was like, I might actually get this because it was under $100. But now we got toddlers. Toddlers are walking around with iPads, $2,000 fucking iPads. They just, here, be quiet. Because there's a fucking enough. Because there is enough. There's definitely enough resources. I'm not a Christian, by the way. I was for about 4 days. I'm actually evil now. I went to hell, but cut through it with a double-edged sword. Finding hope, you mope and cry about things made up in Babylonian. Whatever. You're not making any sense. I don't have an issue with religion. I don't have an issue with God. I don't have an issue with Europeans or Caucasians or white people. My conflict is problems can be solved, and I don't understand why people don't solve their problems. Anyone that knows me understands that about me. Problems can be solved, and I don't understand why you can't solve your problems. Issues and conflicts and adversities will always exist, and there's a solution. To the brain that we have was designed to solve problems, and one of the ways that it solves problems is by taking reality and formulating it into an algebraic expression. And that's why women nag and complain and whine, because their brains takes everything about the world that's around them and puts it into a quantifiable algebraic expression that they don't understand, because in high school they didn't take the time out to learn math, so their brain is holding this equation that they don't understand how to unravel. It's an algebraic expression, and you can't look at the algebraic expression and fully understand it and break it down into its component parts and create a condition that would allow you to apply it objectively to your life. So you wind up sad, depressed, and unable to move because there's no solution to this thing that is overwhelming you. But the reality is that you are the solution to any problem you have, because you either are going to accept the problem for what it is or you're not. The easiest way to solve most problems is just to say, I don't fucking care about that shit. I'm done. I'm out. Deuces. As soon as you do that, problem solved. But we get emotionally invested and our livelihoods are tied into, and my wife wanted to be a problem. I put a lot of energy into her. She wanted to be a fucking problem. Hey, let's work together as mature adults and resolve these conflicts that we have so that we can come to a place where we don't have conflicts. I don't want to do that. I want to argue and fight and be childish and disrespectful and hateful and arrogant, and I want you to understand that you're not good enough and you're a loser, and just, she wants to run her fucking mouth. Can you not run your fucking mouth? Okay, fine. You don't want to change. You don't have to change. You have the right as a woman to choose to be the person you want to be. If you want to be stuck in that energy, if you want to have that position, that's fine. If you don't want to be my wife, you don't have to. You can stay where you are, and I will continue to move forward. Problem solved. Being invested in engaging in this unnecessary chaos, in this unnecessary energy, is one of the ways that women try to influence men in a way that they can maintain their control over us, but they don't want to recognize that the decision-making process that the man has and the decision-making process that they have are not the same. They just want credit for things getting done. They don't want to actually have to make things get done. So when men engage in behavior and activity that will manifest things getting fucking done, the women around them that don't understand that are in opposition to them trying to get shit done. And then while they're trying to get it done, they're over here in the background like, it ain't gonna work. He ain't gonna be able to do it. It's gonna fail. Jesus, I love Jesus. And then that energy creates that unnecessary conflict. And then when the man is successful, it's like, I can't believe that you went against Jesus and God. And now I have to hold this value in my head of God being inferior. And I know that's not true. So you must be evil. You must be the devil. Why? What is all of that for? Why is all that energy necessary? Like, that's, to me, that's the conflict. And when I go into the world and I understand, like, racism is a thing, like, people can get upset with me for saying it. People can try to misunderstand. They can be in their ego. They can be pro-white if they want. But when you work at a job and the Caucasian manager breaks into the fucking safe and rips all the money out of it, takes it to his Caucasian store manager, and then he winds up getting arrested, and then a couple days later, he comes back to fucking work at the same job where he just broke into the fucking safe and stole all the fucking money. He comes back with the same fucking authority that he left with when he wasn't even qualified before that shit happened. And this is some shit that I experienced personally. Already, like, racism is a thing, and I experienced this shit personally. And then he's still running fucking shit. That's why Jesus, like, that's why. That's the reason why. Because had it been not a white person, they would be in fucking prison. They would be in prison. There would have been a full investigation done. There would have been no empathy or nothing. But because of institutional racism, it's perfectly okay for him to steal hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the safe and not get charged for it, not go to jail, none of that stuff. Like, it's just okay. It's just okay. It's okay. Just, sometimes these things just happen. Sometimes these things just happen. Same, another McDonald's kid makes a sandwich. One of the managers, Caucasian females, like, hey, he didn't ask for tomatoes on his sandwich, so make sure he doesn't make that sandwich with tomatoes. Now, this is where the conflict comes in. She could have told him immediately, don't make your own food. Don't make your own food. She didn't do that. She allowed him to make his own food, knowing that he probably was going to put a tomato on it. She didn't confront him and say, hey, don't put tomatoes on your food. You didn't pay for that. Right? She came to me because she wanted me to confront him. So he makes his sandwich. He made his sandwich. He did what she said he was going to do. And then he came over to me, and I rang him up. I was like, what is it? He said, it's a double cheeseburger. I was like, did you add tomatoes to it? No. I was like, you know I watched you put tomatoes on it, right? He's like, oh. I was like, are you going to pay for tomatoes? He's like, no. I was like, why do you feel like you deserve to have this sandwich with these tomatoes on it and not have to pay for them? And he said, because I bust my ass here every fucking day and nobody ever cares. So I don't understand. So I feel like I deserve to have this sandwich with these tomatoes on it as like a thank you for all the work that I do. Now, mind you, tomatoes are dirt fucking cheap for McDonald's, and it literally wouldn't matter either way. So, me being a manager, I said, what you're doing is stealing. You don't want to be a thief. So don't make food with ingredients that you cannot afford to pay for. No, I can afford to pay for it. I said, that's the point. The point is that you can't afford to pay for it. You just don't want to. So don't do that anymore. I'm going to let you have the tomato, and I don't want you to do this anymore. I'm going to charge you for the sandwich without the tomato. And in the future, I don't want you to come in here and make a sandwich and add ingredients to it that you're not willing to pay for, because that's stealing. You're stealing from the company, and you shouldn't be stealing from the company, right? He said, I understand what you're saying, and I respect that. So I rang him up. He paid for the price of a regular sandwich with his discount. He went on his business. The Caucasian manager came out and was like, why'd you ring him up? Why, blah, 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 blah. You were supposed to fire him. And I'm like, I'm not firing him, because he explained what was going on, and I went on ahead and I allowed him to have the sandwich for free. She said, that's not how that's supposed to go down. Chris, you're fired. Chris was like, okay. He walked out. Not even 5 minutes later, hey, so-and-so, I forgot her name. I think it was, I want to say it was Christine, but I can't remember. Hey, so-and-so, do you mind if I make a sandwich? Female Caucasian asking another female Caucasian, she can make a sandwich. Sure, go ahead. She goes back there, she makes her food, she puts her whatever she wants on it, she makes it. Guess what she doesn't do? She doesn't pay for it. Thank you. She doesn't pay for it. She walks off with a sandwich. Somebody just got fired for doing the thing that you just gave somebody else permission for. So when he said verbally that I don't get respect and I'm not treated fairly in this company, that's the reason why I added a tomato to my sandwich. Right? Now, is that racism, or is that just the way the society is structured? Now, it feels like that's just the way society is structured, right? But here's the problem. She came to me as a manager and as a peer and told me to handle it. And when I handled it, she undermined me, right? So now you have this 19-year-old kid that had a conversation with an adult African-American male that's a little bit older than him, that had a conversation with him and was supposed to fix the situation and resolve it at my level. I use my authority, I resolve the conflict, but then this other manager comes over and undermines me like I have been undermined all my fucking life, and creates a condition that shows that even though I might have the position of a manager, I will never have the authority of a manager. And then he leaves with that experience, and that's how the social structure is, that's how it perpetuates itself through society. So I've been ranting and raving for a while, so I think it's time for me to go. Bring the camera. Range the camera. Valentino Russian. Hey man, you came at the wrong time. It is time for me to go. All this stuff is on my YouTube channel. I've been streaming a lot. I've been streaming myself doing my homework. I'm live streaming me doing. I'm live streaming the process of me doing my assignments on Full Sail University, taking Programming 1 and Programming 2 using ChatGPT to help me study. because you don't have to use artificial intelligence to cheat. You can actually use it to learn. And I'm using it to help my learning curve because I'm an old man and my years in the military have broken my brain a little bit. So I have to, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to do things that would otherwise be simple. And if I could dedicate the 8 hours that I spend working to homework, I would be okay. But I spend 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, working, and then I have to come home and I have to find enough energy to do programming at my age, and my brain is just like, why do you hate me? So it's like we was good 20 years ago. Like 20 years ago I was ready, but now you're like, you want me to do all this stuff, and I'm kind of tired, man. I'm a little tired. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. My 100K run is coming up here soon, and next year I'm gonna try to, my goal is by 2028 to no longer have to work for other people. I want to start my own job. And you have all these people on the internet that have all these get rich quick schemes, and all you have to do is this, all you have to do that, take this one pill and you can lose 100 pounds. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I think that there is a legitimate way for people to go from being low income to raising your class in society in an honest, legitimate way. And that is what I'm documenting and what I'm promoting. That's the goal. And one of the things I have to do is I have to make it very clear that by Facebook. One thing I have to do is make it very clear that I am not a person that follows religion. I do not believe in God. I do not believe in Jesus. I do not worship white people. My 2 cents is dedicated to finding solutions to problems while also putting institutional racism at every level into the proper category, because you cannot create a solution to a problem without adequately defining and evaluating and analyzing that problem. So you have to say this thing occurred because of racism, so this is a solution to this racist thing directly, otherwise you're being counterproductive. So that's how this is gonna work. But yeah, I'll probably be back in a few hours to do my homework. So as always, my name is Paul Emerson. I've given you my 2 cents.